Angela on there?
She is, her video and is not on, but we've asked her to unmute and turn her video on.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Angela.
Hello.
Good to see you all there. Are we ready to start?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna move this screen so I can see all of you better. There we go. All right. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission for Thursday, November 21st, 2024 at 5:32, I believe. It's not specified in the agenda, but I will want to call roll call. So John
Present.
Miller, Peter Sante,
Present.
Charles present.
Kathy
Thank you.
Green present.
Todd present.
Bishay Benton present.
yes, and we have both a new planner, which she will introduce herself here in a moment, and Lee Shea, welcome.
Yeah.
Back.
Back.
Yes. Allie, I see you are there. Is there any other staff? Is Ron on? Yes, Ron is on. Ron Corals is on.
And we have Tina Rutherford clerking this meeting, and Dan Enright is also in the audience to represent Town Council.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Approval of minutes. We have two dates, August 23rd and October 24th to approve. I'll entertain a motion for either of those. Kathy?
I move to approve the October 24th, 2024 meeting minutes of a joint planning and zoning and HARC meeting as presented.
August 23rd wasn't the joint one, October 24th
Oh, I
was.
said, I was trying to say October 24th, sorry. I said-
Okay. All right, anyone want to second that?
I'll second.
Charles, thank you. So we have a motion before us for the October 24th meeting minutes. Any discussion?
Good.
All right. Kathy, how do you vote?
Yes,
Charles?
Charles, yes.
Peter?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Todd?
Todd, yes.
Angela, yes. All right, how about August 23rd?
you were the only one there. You should make the motion.
For the chair?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm happy to. That's the first one I've done, so thank you for that.
yeah.
As chair, we normally don't, so that was my hesitation there. I'll make a motion to approve the August 23rd, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission Chair minutes. Would anyone like to second that?
I'll second.
Kathy? Any discussion? All right. I'll vote yes. Kathy?
Yes,
Todd?
Todd, yes.
Charles?
Charles, yes.
Peter, yes.
John, yes.
Lachey, you're forgetting her.
Yes,
If I
she's an
wasn't there.
alternate. Are you a regular member?
Alternate.
Alternate. Okay. And John, just to clarify, are you now a regular member?
No, I probably shouldn't have voted, but you called my name, so.
No worries. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you for being willing, though. All right, staff announcements. We have an introduction of Historic Preservation and Planning Director, Kristen Clothier. Kristen, you want to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Thank you all. I can tell you I'm extremely grateful to have been given this opportunity to serve as the Historic Preservation and Planning Director here and to get to work with each of you as we embark on a comprehensive planning process and also to support all of your forward-thinking work here in the town of Telluride in land use planning. So thank you so much for having me, and I hope to have the opportunity to meet with you each one by one to get to know you and to find ways to work together moving forward.
Welcome.
Thank you, Kristen. You're welcome to sit in that seat if you'd like,
Thank you.
as
Or-
staff.
Or she can sit over by John.
Exactly.
The staff often sits there.
Okay, moving forward, public comment. Just a reminder that if you're online and you want to make public comment, please use the raise your hand function for the Zoom meeting and make me aware, if you wouldn't mind, that you would like to if you are in the room. And this is for non-agenda items. This is pretty typical. Will you have any public comment there in the room?
None here.
Nope. Doesn't look like it, and not online. So Tina, you confirm there's nobody online that wants to speak?
Correct, seeing none.
Okay. So let's get to our public hearing items. We have instituted a process where the chair will read the hearing process. Before I do that, I want to say thank you, everybody, for being there in person, and I had intended to be as well. However, Denver Air is not flying this week, so here I am on the big screen. So sorry about that. Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing procedure is one, the P&Z chairperson will introduce the project. Staff will then give a presentation and answer P&Z's questions. The applicant will give a presentation and answer P&Z's questions, 30 minutes or less. The public is invited to make comments at that point on this specific item, and each person is limited to 3 minutes or less. And dialogue between the public, applicants, and P&Z members is not permitted. It's something that we all just need to remember about. The applicant may address any comments made by the public in a rebuttal. Public comment then ends. Otherwise, we need to keep the process open to add more information for the record. Then P&Z members can deliberate and then vote on the item. Everybody clear about that process?
Clear.
All right, thank you. And just for future on the agendas, it really helps me if that's added to the process. Lexi, you have your hand up, but we are about to start hearing. Is this a public comment item? We haven't actually started the public hearing for either of the two items on our agenda. Her hand is up, so
Thanks, Jim. I'll comment later.
thank you.
Sorry, it's not open for public comment, right? Yeah, I was just
Right,
going
not
forward.
yet.
Yeah. Okay.
That's correct. Okay. So let's get started here. Someone in the room say something so your visual comes up, please.
Hi, Angela.
There we are. Thank you. Lexi was on the screen here. All right. And if we are sharing items, share screens, and we need to ask questions, please let me know. Wave your hands or whatever. Your screen where I can see all of you is very small. So I apologize if I don't pick up on you guys, but please let me know in the case of a share screen. And for those of you who are sharing screens, keep in mind that if we don't need that up there, then let's take it down so we can all see one another. Okay, item number 1. Project title, lots 5R through 9, block 20, ETA minor subdivision that was continued from the October 24th, 2024 meeting. Summary, consideration of a minor subdivision application to remove designated 15-foot rear setback on the plat pursuant to Land Use Code Section 6-402.C.3. Legal description is lots 5R, 7, 8, and 9, block 20, East Telluride addition to the town of Telluride. The address 835, 845, and 855 East Columbia, and lot 5R, block 20, ETA address TBD. Zone district is residential. Owners are Frank Winter, Jennifer R. Winter, San Miguel Properties LLC. The applicant is Mara Trumbull with CCY. Are you there,
I'm here, Angela.
Mara? Yes, thank you. And staff member Ron Quarles, online interim senior planner. Ron, would you like to begin your presentation? There it is.
Before Ron begins his presentation, I'd like just to make a couple of clarifications. So first, I show that absent last time were both Lisha and Todd. Could you tell me whether you viewed the video from the last meeting?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
All 4 hours and 37 minutes.
So, and Lisha, have you also viewed the video and the packet materials from the last meeting? Okay, then you can both participate in this public hearing item. However, both Lisha and John Miller are alternate members and they will not be voting on this item. However, they can participate in the discussions.
May I ask a question about that? Mr. Miller did participate though in the last hearing and was a voting member.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Angela. We've got,
Sorry, that one exclude down. This one might be better. Because it's digital.
oh, did it, last time we had a handheld one. Okay, we're moving, so we're
We don't
close.
have-
Hold on.
Okay,
Does that handheld mic work?
Oh, that might work too.
Yeah,
Maybe
whatever
handheld.
works better.
Oh, that's, okay, that's what I used last time.
As long as the battery's charged.
That's better, because then you don't have to look through the post.
Okay, Angela, can you hear me?
yes, I can.
So Mary Elizabeth Geiger of Garfield and Hecht on behalf of the applicants as well. Mr. Miller did participate in the hearing on October 24th, and he is present tonight, and this is a continuance. So I understand he's an alternate, but I don't see any reason why he should not participate tonight as a fully voting member to provide that continuation from the last hearing.
So if someone would like to designate Mr. Miller in their place to vote, they may do so. However, because we do have all members present tonight and all members present have been caught up fully on the item, no one needs to recuse themselves or otherwise remove themselves from voting to allow John to vote. However, you may do so if you would like, because he was present for the last meeting. So Todd, if you would like to, you can.
Yeah. Sorry, John.
It's okay, Tom.
And then one
No
other
worries.
quick point of
Yes.
order. When the meeting was continued last time, the commission was in deliberations, public hearing had closed. So are we reopening public hearing at this time?
Yes,
Yes,
so
we
new
are.
information has been provided in the staff memo. There are new attachments to that staff memo as well as a revised staff memorandum. Because there is new information being provided and new testimony, the full public hearing has been reopened. There will be a presentation by staff. The applicant will also have an opportunity to present. Public comment will be available again, and then deliberations will commence.
Okay, since there wasn't a motion to that effect to reopen public hearing, that's why I wasn't sure.
I think we just opened a public hearing, as I recall. Is that what you were questioning?
I didn't hear a motion to reopen the public hearing since it had already been closed last time. So that's why I just wanted to confirm that that's what was happening. Thank you.
Ally, do we need to make a motion?
For a clean record, you can. I would recommend that before we have this new information presented, I think we could do a very short motion to reopen the public hearing.
Okay, I'll entertain that motion.
Todd moves to reopen the public hearing for this item.
Anyone second?
Charles seconds.
And Charles seconds. All right. So we are reopening the public hearing.
You
Any
need to
discussion
vote.
on that? We need to take a vote on that. Todd, how do you vote?
Todd, yes.
Charles?
Charles, yes.
Kathy, yes.
Peter, yes.
Angela, yes. So I think that satisfies the motion to reopen. Ally, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So let's proceed here. Ron, now are you ready?
Yes.
We're ready for you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair, Commission. This item, as we stated, was continued from the October 24 hearing. It is a minor subdivision request for the lots platted as lots 5R, 7, 8, and 9 of Block 20 of the East Telluride Addition. The exterior lots 5R and Lot 9 are each 5,000 square feet, while lots 7 and 8 are standard size lots of 2,500 square feet. The area of request is 15,000 square feet in total. The lots are located on the north side of East Columbia and on the west of Columbine Street and south of East Pandora and Primrose to the north. All of the lots are vacant with the exception of the shed at the rear of Lot 5R. It was constructed in 2001 to replace a similar historic shed that was removed from the property previous years or prior to the construction of this new shed. The application is to request the removal of a 15-foot rear yard setback designated on the replat as lots 5 through 10 recorded in December of 1997. The request is also to approve the minor subdivision to remove the 15-foot rear setback designated on the replat of lots 5 and 6 as Lot 5R that was approved in March of 2015. As a housekeeping item, staff wanted to clarify that the shed located on Lot 5R is incorrectly designated in our 2013 Historic Structures Survey. It's identified or non-contributing building with qualifications. This shed was actually constructed in 2001, so it was at the turn of this century. We will work to correct that next survey when it's updated, probably next year in 2025. What it does is it speaks to how well the Winters, who are the owners, accomplished a structure that even fooled the experts. So it's not a historic shed,
Easy to do that.
but it's meant to replicate a historic shed. Background on recent history of the meetings that have occurred. The process started back in February 22nd of 2024 with the first hearing. Because there was no motion made to approve or deny the application, it came back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for another hearing on June 27, 2024. It was approved by a vote of 4-1 for approval, which was approval of the minor subdivision to remove the 15-foot rear yard setback. Following the June 27 hearing, the neighbors adjacent to the application requested that it be appealed or filed a record of appeal to town council. The town council heard the item at a hearing on August 19 and voted by a vote of 5-2 to remand it back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Then at the next meeting on August 27, town council approved the resolution to remand the item back to P&Z. At the last meeting of October 24, the application was reheard or heard again by the Planning and Zoning Commission. At that meeting, Planning and Zoning Commission voted to continue the item for tonight's meeting for additional information and analysis. So at the last meeting and this meeting, or the packet that we included for this meeting includes multiple attachments. All of the attachments refer back to the history of this application. Staff has also included 4 additional items that were not in the packet at the last meeting. They include the minutes to the Planning and Zoning Commission of January 15, 2015, and the staff memo for that meeting. That was the meeting at which the replat was approved for lots 5 and 6. We also included the subdivision design criteria in this packet and the Telluride master plan for reference. So a little bit of history, and we provided this at the last meeting, so we'll go through it again at this meeting. This process kind of started all back in 1979 with the adoption of Ordinance 395. The ordinance authorized the town council to trade land that it owned for private land that was owned in the town, what is now the town park. December 18, 1979, Ordinance 409 was adopted to vacate the west 10 feet of Columbine Street. Then about 18 years later, October 23 of 1997, Planning and Zoning Commission considered an application that was brought to the Planning and Zoning Commission by the town of Telluride as the owner of lots 5 through 10. The purpose for that original P&Z application was to explore combining the 6 lots into either 3 or the provision of 1 5,000 square foot lot on the eastern boundary with 4 smaller lots taking vehicular access from the rear. When it came back to the Planning and Zoning Commission on October 28, the subdivision that was granted was the second scenario, the latter scenario. At that meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission granted initial approval of the replat of lots 5 through 10, along with a 15-foot rear yard setback for each of the lots established. Included in the 15-foot rear yard was a vehicular access easement accepting the westernmost lot. Rather than move forward and record that subdivision, it came back to the Planning and Zoning Commission as an amendment. The town of Telluride brought it back as an amendment. And there was concern expressed with the ability of any one property owner to insist upon an easement across all of the other lots. So when it did come back for approval at that meeting, the condition was placed, rather than the easement that was originally identified across the lots, a condition was placed on the approval of the subdivision, and I'll read that condition. At the time of the first HARC review of the subdivision, access can be developed from the rear of all lots if all owners agree unanimously to do so, or alternatively, a 10-foot curb cut will be made on the westerly boundary of lot 5. A 10-foot curb cut will be made between lots 6 and 7, equally divided between them. A 10-foot curb cut will be made on the easterly boundary of lot 8, and lot 9 shall have access from Columbine Street. The intent of that condition was to limit the number of curb cuts along Columbia to no more than 3 and 1 curb cut on Columbine. About a week after the plat was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, the replat was recorded as lots 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. The land transfers between the town of Telluride and the owner of the private land in the area that is now parkland was also recorded. And finally, an access agreement was signed and recorded on that same date, establishing the options for either rear access or access from the front of the property. Then more recently, in March of 2015, lots 5 and 6 were replatted as Lot 5R. This was accomplished prior to the ballot 300 language that would not have permitted it otherwise, but it did come in before that ballot measure was approved. When that was the plat identified the 15-foot rear yard setback that was established in 1997, and it referenced the potential access agreement on the plat, which was recorded as book 591, page 938 with the county clerk. So that leads us to this current application. Because the owners have mutually agreed to access the lots from Columbia Avenue and Columbine Street, they are requesting the rear setback be removed from the plat and that future construction comply with the building setbacks established by the Telluride Land Use Code. Staff's recommendation is, as it was at the last meeting, staff supports the requested minor subdivision on the basis that all owners have agreed to provide access from Columbine and Columbia Avenue, and removal of the setback would not prevent the future development to occur as per the dimensional requirements of the residential zone district. So we included additional analysis in our staff memo, specifically related to the master plan. We had assistance from our assistant town attorney, Allie. And I'd like to point out what some of the conclusions or some of the findings in our staff memo. We noted for the commission that the protection of private views is not specifically referenced in the Telluride Master Plan or the Land Use Code, and that HARC, when it reviews the application before it, it will consider the development of the site as it relates to protection of views, open space, landscaping, all the things that they normally take a look at. In their review, there are setbacks may be increased if it is determined to be appropriate by HARC. We indicated in the staff memo that while the commission's concerns are valid as far as the future development of this site, the commission is encouraged to adhere to the criteria under which it must render its decision with respect to the subdivision of property only, and in this case, a minor subdivision. Commission is also reminded that third parties do not have a right to the benefits granted by a prior subdivision if an applicant meets all the criteria for amending that subdivision, which in staff's judgment, this application does. Finally, the definition of a subdivision as it's defined in the Land Use Code, subdivision means the division of any land into 2 or more lots, parcels, tracts, plats, sites, or separate interests, or such other division for the purpose, whether immediate or future, of sale or transfer of ownership, or for building or other development, or for the creation of streets or other rights of way. Subdivision shall also mean the consolidation, aggregation, and reconfiguration of lots. And with that, that concludes my presentation. Be glad to try to answer any questions.
Anybody in the room have some questions?
You mean on the council, not on in the room?
Well, on the commission, yes.
Yeah.
No questions of staff?
Nope,
Okay, pardon me?
no.
No.
No, all right. That's what I'm seeing too. Okay, let's go to the applicant. Who's going, Laura, are you going to make the presentation or?
Yes, both Mary Elizabeth and I have some things to contribute, but I'm going to kick it off.
Okay.
Share my screen. So I think we just want to add a few things, really tying into the tail end of Ron's presentation. Wanted to start with bringing up the original plat, and highlighting that, you know, this subdivision retained the original town site lot configuration as discussed. And the replat really helped realign these lots and not create a non-conforming lot with the vacation of the 10 feet of Columbine Street. You can see the old lot lines underneath, and that westernmost lot would have been non-conforming. The area within the setback is not designated as anything on this plat. There are no plat notes that reference any of the historical conversation and context here. It's really recorded as a setback. And, you know, we just wanted to touch on subdivisions come in all shapes and sizes. It's a really broad tool. Lots of things can be designated within them. We heard a little bit of that in public comment last month at the previous part of this hearing. The examples on the page, you know, clearly designate a rockfall mitigation area, preserved open space that's not a part of the actual property, private property parts of those lots, but it's a preserved open space within the subdivision that everyone benefits from. There's wetlands designated in the lower right. These items are described clearly on the plat and in the title documents so that in perpetuity, people can really understand what the purpose of those were. And again, as I mentioned on the previous slide, that's not described on the plat for this subdivision. Just wanted to touch again, we are in the minor subdivision category. So of course, this is a one-step process. We're looking at the minor subdivision and the final plat. So it's a bit of an abbreviated process. And yeah, it's usually administrative review, and we did discuss this at the last hearing because of the conversations around this particular item. Ron has chosen to elevate this to the full commission, which brings us here. So the previously approved subdivision, as Ron outlined, both in 1997 as well as 2015 in the replat, met all the subdivision design criteria. The modification and removal of this setback does not affect any of those criteria in any substantial way. This board actually found that all that criteria were met at the June 27th hearing. The application has not changed. So, you know, I wanted to just reiterate the conclusion and recommendation from the original 1997 staff memo. The subdivision as approved exhibits a simple configuration, relatively flat topography, and highly compatible residential character. This remains true under the current application. And we wanted to just take some time and highlight exactly how we feel we are meeting the design criteria and the criteria for approval. So first off is master plan consistency. There's a number of goals under the master plan. It's an incredibly broad document, but wanted to focus in on two in particular. Goal A, maintain and enhance the unique sense of community present in Telluride today. And I've highlighted a couple of particular points under there. Item number 4 is to recognize and preserve the visual scale of town in the context of the mountain backdrop. These lots are similar to the historic town site shaped lots. They're very consistent with the visual scale of town. And they're also compact. Maintain the compact nature of town is the next item on this list. So we feel like we are meeting the intent of this goal within the master plan. The second one being goal I within the residential section of the master plan. And under that goal, wanted to highlight a couple items as well. To develop and redevelop residential areas that complement the natural and historic mass and scale without replicating the historic Victorian buildings. Due to the traditional configuration of the lots here, 25 by 100 and 50 by 100 on the corner, those are very much in line with the context of town and the historic Victorian era buildings. And then number 4, to ensure that new residential construction is designated in scale with the surrounding neighborhood. The immediate neighborhood is, East Pandora is a little unique, but these lots are really of a similar scale to everything to the south. Again, they're historic town site lots, and they still are of a scale with the East Pandora neighborhood in general. And then touching a little bit on section 6-408, the subdivision design criteria. I've walked through each one of those items here. I can walk through those in detail if the commission wants me to, or I'm happy to answer questions specifically about this in the question and answer section as well. But in general, we feel strongly that we exhibit compliance with the subdivision design criteria throughout this section. And then just to circle back on the proposed plat, so this will remove the 15-foot setback. It will be subject to the standard rear yard setbacks. So 5 foot for an accessory building, 15 foot for a principal structure, just like the rest of the R zone district. And as Ron mentioned, HARC, of course, will have purview over specific site development applications. Again, we feel strongly that we meet all the requirements and criteria. And, you know, under this process and in the land use code for minor subdivision, we feel approval, you know, shall be granted is kind of the language in the land use code. Hand it over to Mary Elizabeth.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Angela and Ron?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, you know, just to follow up on what Ron mentioned earlier, what Maura just described, typically minor subdivisions are just administratively approved. This one has been elevated, I think, due to the history that it has previously been approved in the past by Planning and Zoning Commission. But it is still just a one-step process. This application does not go up to council as part of the approval process. And under the minor subdivision provision, it specifically states that upon a finding of conformity, the planning director and P&Z chairperson shall approve the final plat. Now, I realize that's, you know, if it were administrative, but that really applies here as well. I think it was set forth pretty clearly in the staff report, and as we discussed at the last meeting, that if this application meets the criteria in the land use code and is conforming with the master plan, then you guys need, I mean, there's really no choice here. It must be approved. If it's not approved, and it does meet all that criteria, then, you know, such action would be arbitrary and capricious. I just want to reiterate that it has been found multiple times to meet the criteria and the master plan. And you guys did specifically find that in June, and the application hasn't changed, you know, since the June hearing. One thing I did want to mention is, just for the record, we did a Quora request for any communications between P&Z members and staff or among P&Z members. There is some indication that there might have been some ex parte communications, and since you guys use private emails and not a Town of Telluride email, it's kind of unclear how in-depth that search for responsive communication happened. So just for the record, we would object to any ex parte communications that maybe did happen, and you know, would hope that tonight you guys would just consider the evidence that has been presented at the meetings, has been in the packet, and not anything that may have occurred outside of the meetings. Let's see. You know, one other thing to just consider with regard to the land use code, the reason there are specific criteria for each application and then specific types of applications is to provide certainty to the town and to applicants. Applicants have to have a pre-application meeting with staff to present, you know, what they're planning on doing. Staff gives feedback at that time as to what process that application should proceed under, or if there's, and also looks at what the application is trying to do And if there are any issues with the application, staff will, provide some guidance to the applicant, like, hey, you need to go back, you need to look at this particular criteria, maybe, change some things in the application before you actually submit. So this application also went through pre-application conferences, and we are here before you tonight, which means staff felt that it is an application that can be considered under the minor subdivision provision of the land use code, and also, met the criteria. There wasn't anything that was, outstanding that caused staff pause to actually whether or not to send this through. So again, we just ask that you guys approve this. I believe the evidence is overwhelming that it meets the criteria for approval. There's nothing in that criteria that's subjective. It's pretty straightforward and pretty clear that we meet it. So thank you.
Is that your presentation?
That is it. Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
I can stop share too, Angela, unless.
Yes, please.
Reference it.
Okay, if I could see the commission view, thank you. Any questions of the applicant from the commission before we go to public comment? Todd, did you have a question?
No.
Okay. All right. Public comment. Do we have people who want to speak to this item from the public? And if so, I have one person online. Anyone in the room speaking to this? Okay, Lance Ingalls, you have 3 minutes.
The other lands.
I think we have two answers.
Is there someone in the room who's walking to the podium?
Yes, Lance McDonald is walking to the podium.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You need to turn it on.
We would like to defer our time to Lance Ingalls. So I'm Lance McDonald in the room, deferring my 3 minutes to Mr. Ingalls.
And does that mean it becomes 6 minutes, Ally?
And counting.
Yes, and I believe there might be others in the room who would also like to defer their time. So we'll ask everyone who wants to defer their time to Lance Ingalls to please either raise their hand online or come forward so that we can add up that total time.
I'm Gabby McDonald, and I would like to cede my time to Lance Ingalls as well.
Robin Shaw is online. Is there anyone else in the room there?
I would
Ceding
like to
time.
cede 5 minutes to Lance Ingalls.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Angela, this is Todd. You want to reach back out to Lexi and make sure that she's up with us?
Yeah, I didn't see her hand come up, so, and I don't see that she's online unless she's using another name here. I don't see that. Lexi, if you are online and you intended to speak, please let us know. Tina, you don't see her?
I do not.
Okay. So right now I have 12 minutes allowed for this presentation. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so Lance, please introduce yourself. Lance Ingalls, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Lance Ingalls. I'm with Eisnogel Seaver Pogue, a law firm in Denver, and I apologize for my voice. I've got a cold, so luckily no one has to be close to me, but it might affect my ability to speak. So if you can't hear me, please let me know. I'll do my best, but I am fighting something right now. Again, I am an attorney and I represent some of the neighboring landowners in this application, and they are concerned about this application and they're against it. And I think that the P and Z will realize that it's not so simple as this was approved in June and therefore it is approvable now. First, the June hearing is currently irrelevant. That was a hearing that was considered by the city council, and the city council overturned that decision and remanded for a new hearing. So the only hearings that matter for the P and Z today are the hearing that started in October and then the record as it continues tonight. I'm not going to reiterate all of the record from last time. I'll refer to pieces of it because I'm certain that the P and Z is familiar with it. But I do understand that when this matter was continued in October, it was continued in the context of the P and Z making a motion to deny this application, but really struggling with what criteria they would put in the motion to complete that denial. Staff's position was the P and Z really needed to take that bull by the horns and figure that out. And on the fly, they were not able to do that. So that is a context that resulted in a continuance. And as a result, my clients have prepared a draft resolution of denial, and I understand that they've presented that there at your hearing tonight for the P and Z to see an example of what a denial might look like. But we will go through that criteria as we think it should be and offer why we think a denial remains appropriate. So this again started, as everyone's recognized, as a subdivision in 1997. In 1997, in October of that year, the first hearing was held, and two things happened. One, there was discussion of access on these lots, and that was going to be off the front or the rear, and those circumstances were defined. And also, as a separate issue, a setback was inserted. A setback was 15 feet. The access was really discussed to be 10 feet. But in any event, both issues were discussed, and both issues were implemented on the final subdivision plat. That plat note for the setback has existed since 1997 for nearly 27 years. What happened between October and December of that year was there was discussion about the access easement being confusing and potentially resulting in a veto power for one property owner over the other property owner. So the access easement was further refined, but the setback was not. So the setback has been in place since December 11th of 1997. It has remained unchanged. It remained on the plat in 2015, although the plat was labeled access and setback. It was conflated for the first time, but that didn't change the nature of the setback. There was discussion a moment ago from the applicant that the setback's undefined. Well, that's absolutely consistent with your code. The definition of setback is found in section 2-229 of your land use code. Your land use code is applicable here. And a setback means the horizontal distance between a lot line and the outermost exterior face or finish of a building. I won't keep reading. I won't bore you with that, but a setback is what it is. It's extremely rare and a little unreasonable to expect a setback to be defined as something specific. Easements, on the other hand, are absolutely defined. You can have an access easement, you can have a utility easement, you can have a drainage easement, a slope easement, a public access easement. There's various different reasons for an easement, and those tend to be defined. But setbacks simply are what they are. They're no build areas. And so this setback existed, again, for 27 years. There is a difference, too, in this application tonight versus what was considered by the P and Z in October. In June. In June, those issues were kind of conflated by staff and the applicant. And it was argued that the access easement and the setback were really one and the same. And certainly if the property owners agreed to get rid of the access easement, then you could also get rid of the setback because there was no other purpose for it. We disagreed with that at the city council meeting, and the city council believed the record was not complete enough in part of their remand. And so they did remand for new consideration of whether this setback should be vacated. In 1997, the applicant was the town. The town was the owner of the properties, and the town was the applicant. And the town agreed to the setback. And in in the hearing in December of that year, they even talked about that setback not needing to change because it was agreeable to the neighbors. And in part, it preserved an issue of views that the neighbors were concerned with. So that was not just stray comments, that was in the land use application that came in December 11th of 97. And there was discussion of the setback being in part for view sheds and therefore unobjectionable. And again, that's important because in 1997, the town was trying to define this subdivision as one that would be acceptable in the greater context of this particular area. And it recognized the unique access of this property where there's limited number of homes that access the main road off the front of the lots. There was discussion whether front or back access would be appropriate, and the setback was created all at the same time, but for separate purposes in consideration of concerns of the neighbors. So there was a historical context in 1997 that mattered to staff, and staff created this setback in part with this in mind. And that's particularly relevant because tonight's application is solely about getting rid of that setback. So what the applicant has to show is that they meet all the criteria in the land use code, in the master plan, and in the design guidelines by removing the setback. And we don't think they have met that criteria, and we don't believe they can. So just quickly, and again, some of this might have been handed out to you, so I won't spend too much time on stuff that you can certainly read for yourself. Review criteria. A fundamental purpose of the Telluride Land Use Code in Section 6, Division 4 is to achieve and encourage a safe and convenient pattern of land development, which respects the town's historic development pattern and which is consistent with the design guidelines. Design guidelines, are important because the design guidelines, I'm just going to jump to this real quick so I don't miss it. The very last page of some handouts you received, they're basically copies of segments of your various codes. And the last couple of pages is the East and West Telluride Residential Chapter 4 Telluride Design Guidelines, and it's policy on views. It's policy number 8. Midway down the paragraph describing that policy, it says, projects including subdivisions should be planned to reinforce and preserve existing public and private view corridors. So project including subdivisions. We are talking about a subdivision application here. The design guidelines clearly apply to subdivision applications, and they absolutely do protect view corridors. And that was what was done in 1997. So please don't miss that was a requirement, and it remains one today. Again, going to your regs, Section 6-401 of the Land Use Code has this language in subparagraph D. The development patterns of subdivision, something that must be complied with, is encouraging a safe and convenient pattern of land development, which respects the town's historic development pattern and which is consistent with the design guidelines for building in Telluride and the Telluride master plan. So again, the design guidelines are part of the code. The design guidelines absolutely protect and consider views, and they did so in this case. And getting rid of them would not comply with these same provisions. Getting rid of the setback would be exactly opposite of what a previous board did and what the town of Telluride actually applied for and what was approved. Also, I refer you to urban design of the master plan, particularly Goal H. Goal H says development of a coordinated approach to urban design that establishes visual continuity and promotes a sense of community and a walkable town. That is all something that is protected by the master plan. Number 1, policy under that, maintain the traditional and historic scale of Telluride through the town, including areas of new development and infill. And 5, guidelines for specific treatment areas shall provide urban design concepts for neighborhood and boundary condition compatibility that define how individual developments should relate to each other. All of these provisions were met in 1997 and they remain met today. And to ignore these provisions today would be to ignore the reason this setback exists in the first place. So to get rid of this setback, you would have to conclude that all of these provisions that do protect the historic nature of the neighborhood and that do protect elements of land use. Those aren't important now for subdivision, even though the code protects them in the context, in the very specific context of subdivision. So this was a unique subdivision in 1997. It was established to be the traditional neighborhood it was, with setbacks that mattered at that time to the neighbors and to the town. And again, this setback has existed ever since. So what we have prepared for you is a draft of a resolution of denial. And the only part that I'll kind of bring to your attention on that draft, because a form of a denial was in your packet, but it had blanks for the rationale of the denial itself. So here's what I believe the findings can and should be based on the hearing that started in October. The application does not meet the applicable requirements, purpose, and intent of the Telluride Land Use Code. The application is inconsistent with Land Use Code Article 6, Division 4, subdivision provisions, and specifically the subdivision design criteria contained in 6401D. Development pattern. The application is inconsistent with the Telluride Master Plan, Section Urban Design, Goal H and Policy H.5. And the application is inconsistent with the design guidelines and standards for building in Telluride, East and West Residential Treatment Area Policy View. You've been told in several different ways that you're really compelled to approve this, or at least that's implied. And the law in Colorado is straightforward and it's consistent with your code. If this development application meets all of the approval criteria, you must approve it. But if it fails to meet even one approval criteria, you must deny it. We believe it does not meet the approval criteria for the land use code or for the master plan or for the design guidelines. These are all requirements that have been identified for you as applicable to this application, and we request denial.
Thank you, Lance. Lexi Tuddenham, did you have something to say?
Not muting her.
Your hand is up.
Can you turn off the clock?
Is Lexi gone?
Can you hear me right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, okay. I'll just reiterate what I've said in the past, but then I wanted to cede my time to Lance Ingalls for anything additional that he needs to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Lexi. Lance, you have another 3 minutes, as I understand.
Okay, well, thank you. I hope I wasn't speaking too quickly before. I was trying to honor your clock. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So it should be noted and could easily be noted and was presented at some length in October that the P&Z has regularly approved setbacks different in kind from what the current regulations may require if you were simply applying for a new subdivision. So there are setbacks that are not the same as what would happen today. And they're on the books and they represent the different historical neighborhoods and traditional neighborhoods and the different situations that are found in the town of Telluride. So the fact that Telluride created a 15-foot setback on these now 4 lots rather than 5 is not particularly unique, nor should it be a concern. It was something that was done. It was done for a reason. It was done by the town, for the town, and for neighbors. And again, it met the criteria then and was approved. And if you're going to overrule it, you have to determine that that setback, removing that setback, meets all of the same criteria that the setback protects. That's kind of a tall order when the situation is that this met criteria and has existed for 27 years in its traditional and historic context. So, sorry, I'm just going to review my notes real quick to make sure I haven't missed anything. So I understand in the past that on this hearing, after deliberations have started, there have been interjections from staff and others. I would ask that when the board gets to deliberation on this matter tonight, that they deliberate themselves and not allow third parties to interject. This is an important decision, and this is a decision that this board and this board alone is appointed to make. These regulations are unique. They are significant. You have an absolutely gorgeous town. I was out there in August for the hearing in front of the city council, and I'm just stunned how gorgeous it is. And it's that way because you take care of it. Your regulations take care of it. Your people take care of it. You treat each other well. That was obvious in my time there. And it was very, very much appreciated. The neighbors are not being unreasonable. They're simply asking for what they asked for 27 years ago. And yes, many of them are the same. And it was approved then. It was approved again with the town as the applicant and the owner. They didn't have to approve it, but they were 100% agreeable to it. That setback still serves a purpose. It still serves a purpose in particular and importantly under the land use code, under the planning, under the master plan and under the design guidelines. And I think that denial is absolutely appropriate. And we've provided you a form for that purpose.
Thank you, Lance. Appreciate that. Do we have a copy of that, Ally?
We do. A copy will need to be emailed to you, Angela, and I can
Okay.
make sure that something's scanned into you so you can view it at the same time as everyone else.
Thank you. I'll look for it. Okay, I believe there is an opportunity for the applicant to do a rebuttal here.
Are there any more public comments?
Yeah.
There's no one online.
Anyone else in the room?
Seeing none.
Do you choose to rebut or
Yeah,
state
yes,
anything?
yes, we do. Thank you.
Yes.
Just want to reiterate, Mr. Ingalls mentioned, how great your town is and how you treat each other well. And that's evident, obviously. And we're not here to try to disrupt that or change that. I just want to hit a few of the points that Mr. Ingalls brought up, especially the findings for denial that he proposed. First, the June 27th, 24 hearing where you guys did grant the application, which the application has not changed. The application itself has always been to remove the 15-foot setback. I understand that there was a different discussion, and that's what the regarding a conflation maybe between what was for an easement, what was for access, what was a setback. But, the application hasn't changed and the relief requested. That hearing and those findings are still relevant. The city council remanded this for a process issue. They did not, if they had disagreed with the finding and the decision that you guys made, city council had the option to just reverse it. And they didn't do that. And Ron points that out in his staff report that the remand really was to make sure that the process was fair for all parties involved. One thing I just wanted to point out too, the land use code, sets out for every zone district what the setbacks are to be. And what we're asking for tonight is to default to those that are in the R zone district. I believe that's truly a finding by the town that those setbacks are appropriate in that zone district. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the code and it would be left up to each lot or each subdivision all the time to come in. And you would frankly have to remember these town sites, lots, when they were originally platted, did not have setbacks. Because at that time, the town, was in its infancy 100 years ago. Planning and zoning didn't really exist. So I am sure you have some properties and some homes that are over 100 years old that are built at the property line or much closer than your existing setbacks today. We're not asking for that. Even though these are traditional town lot sizes, they're straight square lots. Nobody's trying to go back to forcing buildings up to the property line or anything closer than what the zone district allows. So Mr. Ingalls did bring up, I might jump around a little bit here, but design guidelines and standards for building in the Telluride East and West residential treatment area for the policy on views. He did read that introduction of that section, but if you actually turn the page to D, it specifically says that views through private property are not insured or protected. I think that's really important. What the neighbors are talking about are views through private property. And if you look at the picture that's on that page, you know, it's looking down a street. So that provision about views that's in the introduction is really to ensure when a subdivision goes in, that these public views, these views available to the public are preserved. And it specifically calls out private property views through private property are not insured or protected. And I think we've said already 1,000 times, but I'll say it one more. There was nothing on this plat, which is the recorded document, that said anything about the neighbor's views being protected by that setback. So I'll leave that at that. He also mentioned goal H of the master plan, 8.5 particularly, that this would create incompatibility. I think Maura would like to share screen here. Incompatibility for between individual developments in the neighborhood and at the boundary condition leading to an inappropriate development pattern. So this is the adjacent neighborhood. As we mentioned before at the last hearing, this is the East Pandora subdivision. And you can see by that it's actually pretty funky sized and configured lots. They are not typical town site lots. They're not rectangles. They also have platted setbacks that are, for the most part, 5 feet or less, even at the rear of the property line. So again, applicant is asking to remove a 15-foot setback from a plat. They have met the criteria for that relief. It is not going to create incompatibility with these neighboring lots. It certainly doesn't create incompatibility with most of town because they are straight rectangular, typical town lots. And we're just asking for the residential setbacks, which will always be 15 feet for your primary dwelling. It's 5 feet for just a secondary, primary building, secondary building. Let's see. Section, and also there's been a lot of discussion about proximity between buildings and neighbor, the town wanting to ensure, and I just like to back up for a minute, even though the town was the applicant in 1997, that's obvious and record. That doesn't mean that this should be treated differently. I will tell you, I represent various cities and towns. Sometimes the city or the town is the landowner. They have to go through the land use process, go to a quasi judicial hearing, just like any other applicant. So it's not like there's special treatment just because it's the town or that should be given any more weight than it being any other applicant. And as far as the proximity to other structures, as you can see from this slide, the neighbors immediately to the west, their houses are, I can't read that, sorry. Can you read it, Mo?
9 and 12 and 11, just trying to illustrate the proximity between the buildings. And really this in terms of item number 2 on this resolution here, the development pattern that we're proposing is simple, it's safe, and it's frankly consistent with building spacing throughout the immediate context. The resulting, if this was developed, that spacing would be consistent with the immediate context. It would be consistent with building spacing throughout town. Particularly if you zoom out, look across the street even, that's a really traditional rectangular lotted neighborhood as well. This is not creating a condition that is inconsistent with building spacing throughout town.
And one more thing to add to that, if you look at this with as far as the easternmost lots, and I believe this is Ms. Tuddenham's property.
I think so.
You can see it's the Tuddenhams have a pretty funky shaped lot. Their home is built. That space then that's open to the east. That is my understanding. Nothing's going to be built there or can be built there. So there's really no issue at all with proximity to other buildings on those lots, because there's never going to be any issue with another home being or another building being pushed, close. But regardless, I still go back to that land use code for the zone district. That is, for 5 feet for a secondary or accessory building, and primary building has to be 15 feet. That is a finding that is appropriate. And that's appropriate for the residential zone district. That's where these lots are. It's not a variance request. We're not asking for anything different than what this would be if the original town site lots had stayed just that and not been replatted. And let's see. Oh, also, Mr. Ingalls did touch on that, this has been in place for 27 years. Again, that's a factual statement. That's correct. But I believe Ron pointed out in the staff report, rightly so, that, that's the whole reason you have this minor subdivision process and this particular provision is that plats can be changed. They can be changed if all the owners in that subdivision decide they want to apply for that. If things were unchangeable, you wouldn't have that provision in the code. And as Ron pointed out, because of that, it's great that, and I still would debate whether or not a 5-foot accessory building actually does really destroy views here or create a proximity issue. But regardless, we have the right to ask for this, and it's in your code. And having a land use code, as I said earlier, is to give certainty to applicants, to neighbors, to the town. If you didn't have a land use code, if you didn't allow this type of application, we wouldn't be in front of you. If this wasn't able to be amended, we wouldn't be here. And if you didn't have a land use code, I think you could all agree that would be chaos, and you would end up with a town that does not look as nice as it does now. So I will close with that and really urge you guys to find. We believe we have met all of the criteria that we're required to meet. I want to be clear, it's not like you have to meet every single piece of the land use code. It's only those provisions that are applicable to a minor subdivision. Thank you.
You're muted, Angela. You're muted, Angela.
Angela, can't hear you.
I'll ask her to unmute.
There we go. Sorry, I was printing something. What you sent me and it was noisy. To start again, Lance Ingalls has his hand up. However, I don't believe there's a provision for the public to rebut. Is that correct?
There is no public rebuttal, but I will leave it up to the chair as to whether she would like to reopen for public comment. However, I believe Mr. Ingalls is very close to reaching his time limit. I don't know how much time he left off with when he last had 3 minutes. 8 seconds. Yeah, so I believe Mr.
Right.
Ingalls has timed out.
Okay. So, are there any other items to discuss or questions to ask of staff or the applicant before we close the public hearing? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and begin deliberation. Anyone want to begin first?
Okay, Angela.
Yes, Kathy.
Okay. I've thought about this for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Every time the town has traded land, which has happened maybe only 4 or 5 times, not selling land, but it's traded land. It's been difficult because many people in the town as residents or citizens are against ever trading land, or they think the town's not getting enough value, you know, what the land they're getting and stuff. So they've
So Kathy,
often,
I'm going to stop you there. Is this new information that
maybe,
needs
well,
to
this
be
is my
added to the
thought
hearing?
process. But I mean, I don't know how I can put it in the hearing. I'm not allowed. But based on what I've seen with other land trades, they often came with restrictions that have been held up on subsequent applications to change them.
Okay, so hang on, Kathy. I'm going to ask Ally. The kind of information that Kathy is offering may be valuable, but how do we get it in the record? It's right now we're in deliberation. Do we need to open the public hearing again? I don't want to go down this road again.
Yes, so again, I would really encourage every one of you who is going to be discussing this tonight to stick strictly to the criteria. And I know it's very hard in a small town where we all live, where you might have a history in the community, might know of how other projects were handled. However, we are only looking at criteria tonight. So if you would like to reopen the public hearing, Angela, you may. I will leave that up to you. I don't know how you would weigh the information that was just presented, but I cannot state this enough. Please take a look at the criteria that has been presented to you, and please only consider that criteria, not how other projects have been treated, not how you want to treat this, but the criteria that it does or does not meet.
If I was to open the public hearing, how would individuals on the commission offer information? Since we have just staff to present, we have the applicant to present, and we have the public.
So the concern about having a commission member offer up testimony themselves, they cannot make public comments. So remember, you were supposed to be impartial. So it would be my strong advice that no commission member testify today to any outside information. If you do have any outside information, you need to present that on the record so that the public and the applicant are aware of any outside information you might have, whether that's from participation in a prior project, or it could be word of mouth that you might have heard on the street, or a conversation that you had with someone outside of a public hearing. If you have outside information, that does need to be disclosed.
Kathy, can you make this part of deliberation without offering new information? Or you hear what Ally's saying about
I hear
testimony.
that. I just think that there's precedent in the past for an action that I didn't know how to get that information to town staff legally, you know, properly. And I would love to know that for future applications.
So I think the legal department's response to precedent would be that, remember, this is a quasi judicial action item. This is a new item that you are looking at. Every application needs to be looked at anew. So disregard precedent and only look at, again, the criteria that is before you in the master plan, in the municipal code, and look at that criteria and apply it anew. So precedent does not matter here.
Okay. I'll just ask where people are at while Kathy considers her thoughts. John, I'll just go around the room. We're in deliberations.
I think at the last hearing, I made my opinion on this pretty clear. I don't think it's really changed much since that previous hearing. I feel like if you look at the design of the adjacent neighborhood, it fits with what's being proposed here. There's no alleyways, there's no rear setbacks or substantial rear setbacks separate from what we're seeing in this application. So I feel like it meets the criteria in the master plan.
Okay, Peter.
I have similar opinion to my opinion prior hearing as well, Angela.
Okay, and for the benefit of Todd, who wasn't here last time, you want to share your thought?
I was in support of a denial of removing the setback.
Do you have any criteria?
One of the four.
Any findings?
I think the master plan, the urban design, I think there are sections in the master plan, and I think, I don't know how many we need to cite, but I think the land use code. I don't know if citing the design guidelines is helpful or necessary, but I think it's supportable through the master plan.
We need a citation. Did you happen to find one that's specifically like a goal?
I'll
within the
mention
master
urban
plan?
design, page 28 in the master plan, urban design introductory statement, goal H, same page, 1 and 5 on that page.
Okay,
I can read it if you'd like.
sure.
Introduction statement or under urban design residents wish to promote good, high quality design in the built environment that will enhance the quality of life and functional utility of the community as a place to live, work, and visit. A significant number of elements that affect the design of the urban environment are already established in the buildings and site features within the historic district, but urban design concepts extend beyond this boundary both geographically and conceptually. And a defined policy of urban design principles can help citizens achieve these goals for quality of design in general. Goal H, develop a coordinated approach of urban design that establishes visual continuity, promotes a sense of community and a walkable town. Policy 1, maintain the traditional or historic scale of Telluride throughout the town, including areas of new development and infill areas. And number 5, guidelines for specific treatment areas shall provide urban design concepts for neighborhood and boundary conditions compatibility, boundary condition compatibility that define how individual development should relate to each other and relate to the protection of the town's historic character.
Okay, so that's, just to reiterate, urban design goal H from the master plan, section 1 and 5.
Introductory statement on that page as well, I think is.
Intro, okay, got it.
But you guys could talk me out of that or argue that for sure. Those were what I would cite.
Okay. Thank you. Charles, we're in deliberations. Did you come up with some things? You were of the same mind, I think.
Well, I guess I would just start that I'm consistent with the last meeting that I'm in favor of denial still. I think I agree with the ones that we just discussed. I also would cite, guess this is in the master plan, policy and views, section 8, A5 and BC, which BC
That B and C?
yes.
Okay.
Well, A, number 5. Site plans for new construction should include consideration of retaining view opportunities for future projects. And C, BC, maintain spacing between buildings that respect the existing views, open spaces, and solar access. And I guess the other issue that I really have with this is that it seems the original subdivision was approved and it met the land use code and the master plan. So changing it now, I think, is inconsistent with our prior decision and town council's agreement with this land swap. And I would say that is inconsistent with the land use code, which is section 1-201, where there are conflicting provisions. Section 1-201A1 and section 1-201-A.4. I think those within the land use code, to me, indicate that overruling an existing valid subdivision without any reasoning is inconsistent with the land use code. So those are,
Okay, let me just review here. You mentioned, was it goal number 8 of the master plan?
goal number 8, yes.
Yes, of A5,
8, A5 and B, no, I'm
And
sorry,
s-
A5 and C.
and C, okay.
All right.
And then, you mentioned, the town's original platting, and you had a citation there. Was that from the subdivision?
This is just rules of interpretation, Division 2 of the Land Use Code.
Okay,
It states wherever the requirements of land use code are at variance or conflict with the requirements of other provisions, which I would consider the existing subdivision that was approved and consistent with the land use code to be another provision. It says you shall apply the more stringent criteria. Being that the existing 15-foot setback would trump the what the applicant is asking for. It also under 1-201A4, it says this code shall not supersede any private land use regulations in deeds or covenants which are more restrictive than this code. The existing subdivision is more restrictive. I believe a plat can be a covenant. So I'm not a legal expert and not going to try and be one, but as I see that, that is inconsistent with the land use code, that we are changing what's already there that we approved.
okay. Thank you for that. So I'm gonna go to Kathy now, yes.
Yeah, I have my little list of finding, I'm still opposed to, I still would like to deny this. My findings and facts are there has been no significant changes in the neighborhood since 1997 when the 15-foot rear setback was established. A 100-foot deep lot is the standard size and does not need special consideration for smaller rear yard setbacks for houses of a compliant mass and scale. Number 3 is a number of built uses can occur in a rear yard setback. Number 4 is the master plan residential land use. Goal 1. Number 2, control residential development in identified natural hazard, geologic, soil problem, or visual impact areas. There are debris flows in this neighborhood. I have personally seen them. Number 5, master plan residential land use. Goal 1. Number 4, ensure that new residential construction is designed in scale with the surrounding neighborhood. Number 6, master plan section, maintain and enhance the unique sense of community that is present in Telluride today. Goal A. Number 4, recognize and preserve the visual scale of the town in the context of a mountain backdrop. My number 7 of my list is the unusual lot shapes and setbacks of the East Pandora PUD reinforce the need for conventional shaped lots and a prescribed minimum rear setback as a buffer between the historic structures in the neighborhood and the topography-driven unusual lot shapes of the East Pandora PUD.
Thanks, Kathy. Just for references here, the last one you mentioned, is that, were you reading something from the
No,
master plan?
I was not reading from the land use code or the master plan. I was looking at the need, looking at the existing conditions that have not changed.
Okay.
Question, Kathy?
Yeah.
Question for Kathy, Angela. So
Sure.
one of the last things you said mentioned historic structures, and I'm curious if you meant existing structures.
Existing, I meant more historic structures, but also existing structures. There are several, we're outside the historic district because we've reduced that over the last 30 years, but there are several historic buildings nearby, not the shed that was misidentified in 2013.
Okay, so just to review citations here, you mentioned goal number 2. Goal number
Goal 1, number 2, goal 1, number 4, goal A, number 4. I have all this in writing. I can give
Okay,
it
very
to
good.
somebody.
Yeah.
I have my
I
corrections.
just wanted, I'm just making notes myself here. And goal 6, I think you mentioned.
The master plan number, my number 6 is I forget what section, but it's called maintain and enhance, but I have, what I wrote down was goal 4, goal A, number 4. I'd have to look in my little book here.
I think that's actually goal.
Okay.
Goal A.
Index.
Yeah. So Todd, would you like to weigh in here? You were part of some of the other meetings.
Sure. And keeping just what was presented at the October 24th meeting and this one, and not going back into ancient history, I think this application meets all the criteria. It meets everything as Ron presented in the staff report, and particularly maintains the kinds of setbacks or lack thereof in this particular neighborhood. If you look at lot B4, B5, A5, those setbacks from the lot lines to those existing buildings are not 15 feet. I don't see why the subject lots need to be need to comply with something that the neighbors don't. And the fact that we have this process to be able to change subdivisions is exactly what it's for. The land use code says you can do that. The subdivision doesn't trump the land use code. It's the other way around. So the land use code says subdivisions may be changed through this process, and that's exactly what's going on here. So I find it meets all the criteria, and I would approve it rather than deny it.
Okay. Lee Shay, you want to weigh in on this one? You've
Sure,
reviewed the past information, so I believe you can comment. I know you're an alternate, but you can, for discussion purposes. Isn't that true, Ally?
Deliberate.
Yes, that is true. She can participate in deliberations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I did watch the prior meeting, and also weighing what's in front of me. I do believe that the applicant meets the criteria. I actually think the argument that the development pattern, I don't think that they established that there really isn't one. The urban design, the visual continuity, I don't think that there is a lot of continuity there as far as, to Todd's point, the unusual nature of the community and having it also not conform to the same standards. And then the views, the views that they're referring to do go through the public, what did they exactly say? Private property, and they're not insured or protected. So the argument, I think, isn't valid, and I believe that the applicant did meet all the applications.
Okay. So I am still of the mind that we are not compelled to approve this. However, there is some compelling arguments made on the behalf of staff that if it's subdivision that has to, or if it meets subdivision criteria, then, and according to the applicant, we should approve it. My hangup with that is that this was a town subdivision. They purposely put a 15-foot setback in place. They designated it on a plat, which is a pretty strong statement. Things haven't changed, I would agree. And I would say that goal A, maintain and enhance unique sense of community and special recognition to the qualities and features that make Telluride unique. This is one of those instances. The town was very much interested in creating a subdivision that was workable. They were interested in the land exchange. They wanted this to be a successful subdivision. It's been in place for 27 years. So my citation is really goal A, number 2, for the reasons that it doesn't have any bearing on the future development, that the what has been in place has been relied on. As far as I'm concerned, it can stay in place. However, I think there's compelling arguments both from legal and our professional staff that there's no reason not to deny it because it meets subdivision regulations, in which case it would go to HARC for development review. So we are in an impasse again. So I would entertain, unless we want to have more deliberations on this. I see we have one vote to okay the subdivision. We have 3 to deny. So if we are going to deny, we have to be very specific about our findings, and I appreciate all the work you've done to choose citations that may apply. So is there anyone who feels differently? And thanks for your contributions, Lishay and John, on this. Kathy.
In the past, I'll get in trouble for saying those words. Staff has taken our reasons and put them, like while we have the next hearing, and put them into a written coherent format. And then we go back to this and we have a much more defined resolution and everything than what we are going to cobble together. I mean, I don't think the days of when I made motions with 47 conditions should return. I think we need to have someone, a professional on the town staff, take our citations and write them up and bring them back to us, hopefully at this meeting rather than the next meeting, but I don't know how to make that happen.
So staff has been taking notes. We can definitely take those citations now and come back with a resolution for you to then pass or vote on at least. And it's my understanding that we're looking at a resolution of denial based on those provisions cited in the land use code and in the master plan.
Yes, and what I'm proposing is that we continue this to after our review and recommendation while staff works on coming back with a written document for us to review and possibly correct, and then we'll see, vote on it. I think that's a clean way to do it.
So Ally, are there sufficient sightings here for you to develop that resolution?
I heard citations. I can't speak to sufficiency. I can only speak to what I heard.
Yes.
So I do have those in front of me, and I would like to really run quickly down the line, particularly as to yours, Charles. I didn't quite catch which provisions it were that you were referencing in the master plan. So Peter, I did catch that you said goal H 1 and 5. Is
Correct.
that okay? And Charles, what were your reasons for denial?
This H1 and 5 and under 8, C, maintaining space between buildings that respect existing views and open space.
What page is that on?
What goal was it?
Hold on.
Here's the This is where the design starts. This was H. See.
H.
Yeah, why don't you come back to me?
He's scrolling.
Okay. If you, I, just so I can understand, because I couldn't, if you were saying H or 8, I heard an A5 and C, I believe also. But if you could just let me know which specific policies that you're referencing, and I would like also to make sure that when that resolution does come back, that even though, for instance, Charles cited to goal H 1 and 5, that everyone else also agrees with that. Because if we need to discuss now, if there are any of these that have been cited that you want to leave out of a resolution. So there does need to be consensus.
Kathy, you want?
I liked everybody else's citations. I did not have trouble with any of them.
Did you have any additional? I think you had goal 1.
You want to?
Well, my other one was regarding just the land use code. This is Division 2, Section 1-201A.
A1 and 4.
A1 and A4.
The others were a master plan reference, right? And this is land use code?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Division 2. I believe you mentioned.
Can I ask a question on this? Is it preferable to be as exact and lengthy to get to a larger number to cite versus a single citation?
It is completely up to you. If however many you think it does not meet, of course, the more that you cite, the more defensible a denial could be. But if there's only 1 or 2 that you all agree are a reason for a denial, then what should be included in the resolution is what you all agree are reasons for denial. So for instance, Charles brought forward the land use code 1-201A1 and A4. However, if the majority of you would not deny on those grounds, then I would suggest you not include it in the resolution.
Kathy, I think that you had some opinions, but do you have agreement with the citations that Peter and Charles have stated?
Yeah, I think I said that a few minutes ago.
and just
I support your
verify.
citation and Peter and Charles. If we need to drop the land use 201, A1 and 4, that's fine, because I think we have enough other citations. Or we can be on the list and then we can drop it out when we see the list and are discussing it.
Okay. Todd, I assume that you would vote no. Is that your determination?
That's correct.
Okay. So I'm still in the deny camp, but I want to be sure that we see all of these written out as best as you can prepare, Ally. So I would recommend that we move on to our next item. Do we suspend deliberations or?
I
or
would
you
make,
prepare
someone
that?
should make a motion to continue. However, Kathy has her hand up.
Yeah, is that what you're planning to do? Go ahead.
I move to continue this hearing till after our review and recommendation hearing, and we will complete this. We will re-deliberate later tonight.
Okay, anyone second?
Charles second.
All right, so Kathy and Charles, any more discussion on continuing on here? All right. Kathy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Todd,
Todd, yes.
Angela, yes. So we will continue and move on to our next item in the meantime. Thank you, Ally, for pulling that together for us. Okay, where is my? Okay.
I know you don't have a crystal ball.
Does anyone need a break? Are we good?
This won't take long. Probably about 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better not.
So we're good without a break, Zoe and everyone?
Yeah, I think hopefully this will go quick.
Okay.
Up to you.
Oh. The next item is a review and recommendation. The title is a tap fee waiver. Summary is an evaluation and review and recommendation from the Planning and Land and Zoning Commission to the Telluride Town Council regarding the extraterritorial water and tap fee waiver between Town of Telluride, Colorado and San Miguel County, Colorado for the Mill Creek parcel. Staff member Zoe Donal, town manager, is here to present this for the applicant, I assume, or I assume that you are going to be just presenting. This is not a hearing.
Correct.
So
Great.
proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, commission members. I'm here as this aligns with our Telluride Municipal Code and requires a referral by the town manager and also P&Z to go up to town council. This is a request from the San Miguel County and the county manager who is asking for extraterritorial water service and a tap fee waiver for their Mill Creek Park project, which you've seen in detail in the packets memo. Just some project highlights. This is a 1.09 acre site near Highway 145 Spur and Mill Creek Road, just opposite the Telluride Valley Floor open space. They are going to feature planned natural play areas, a pollinator garden, a bike skills track, picnic shelter, bicycle repair station, and some historic interpretive elements. They're going to do minimal earthwork and preserve the natural and historic features, ensuring compatibility with the existing landscape. With that, they have done some work with our Public Works Department, and they are going to commit the installation of a pressure reducing valve, or PRV, purchase and install a water meter with ongoing payment for out-of-town rates with the water, and provide provisions of power to the PRV vault via the county's on-site transformer. So with that, the town is supportive and sees that it will provide benefits to our residents and visitors by enhancing their recreational opportunities, provide amenities for pedestrians and cyclists along the adjacent multi-use trail, and balance environmental sustainability and the historic preservation of the space. So with that, we do recommend that P&Z approve the extraterritorial water service agreement and the tap fee waiver to move forward. And for the
Thank you,
tap
Zoe.
fee, yeah, and I'll just make a quick note for the tap fee waiver. We don't have much precedent on providing a tap fee waiver for extraterritorial water service we've never done this before, so it will be new. And when we just look at the base rate since they're not asking for sewer, just water, we'd look at that at 70%. So if they did it with the 2024 commercial base rate, it'd be just over 13,000. And if it doesn't happen this year and it's next year, it'd be just over $14,000 is what that would look like.
Thank you.
Approximately.
Pardon me?
I said approximately.
Oh, yes, thank you. I want to mention before we have questions from the group that I sit as a member of the County Open Space Commission. This is one of our projects, and we have been involved as a commission there on the design side and implementation of this park. As part of the original subdivision, this 1.09 acres was platted and donated to the county for use as a park. So I just wanted to reveal that. That is my involvement. So
thank you for that.
yeah, thank you. Zoe, are there any questions of Zoe on this?
Todd has a question.
Let's hope I
Okay.
can answer it.
I looked at this or heard it at the county and then here. I don't see any provision for toilets or drinking fountain or anything like that. So is that envisioned or is that not envisioned?
So when speaking to the county on that, you're correct. Maybe down the line, a drinking fountain might be possible. For the toilet itself, it would most likely look like a septic toilet or something that gets emptied. I don't think they would be looking for sewer out there quite yet. But again, I'm not the county, so I can't tell that vision. Maybe Angela has more information on it.
I thought
Yeah, I do.
someplace that the application said there would be porta potties.
Porta potties, and that's kind of what, something that would be
And
like.
It did also talk about potable water.
Yeah.
Right. In part, if I can answer that, Zoe, a little bit.
That would be great.
In the design discussions we've had, it was never intended to have restrooms there because they would be really difficult to staff specifically. So at this point, it would be simply porta potties, and there's a provision in that design for that. As far as water is concerned, the immediate concern is establishing native plants to revegetate and provide pollinator gardens and the like after development of the park. Without that, it would be pretty difficult to get things established. So that was one need that was mentioned by the consultant and by staff, Parks and Rec. So that would be an immediate, and eventually water fountain might be considered since this is potable water, but that wasn't part of the initial phasing.
Will the PRV give any, is it purely for this project or is there any other benefits that the town will see from the PRV?
So that's why we're asking the county to take the lead on that investment because it would be most of it for this project. Well, perhaps down the line, the town could find some use for it. We don't have that immediate use right now.
Okay, great. Okay.
Any other questions of Zoe? Okay, you would like a motion, Zoe, I presume?
Yes, thank you.
A motion to recommend. Anyone? Todd?
This is Todd. I move to recommend to town council approval of extraterritorial water service and tap fee waiver to San Miguel County for San Miguel County's proposed Mill Creek Park project.
I second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Any more discussion?
Didn't
All
even
right.
take 15 minutes.
Well, it's
Todd?
exciting to see this happening. Yeah. Yeah. This is really positive.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Todd, how do you
Todd,
vote?
yes.
Kathy?
yes.
Charles?
Charles, yes.
Yes, Peter.
John, yes.
Right. Angela, yes. So, thanks.
Thank you all for your time.
You bet. And I'm not sure if Ally and crew are ready. We could take a brief,
Allie is out and about. She's not in the room.
She's working.
Can we talk
Right.
about the next year's calendar while we're waiting?
that's certainly. Kristen, are you prepared to present that?
Actually, Ron, were you planning to do that or?
Yep, there it is. Wow.
Great. Excellent, thank you.
So we are what color here? We are purple.
18.
23 January, 20 February, 27 March, 24 April, 22 May, 26 June. I assume some of these have been adjusted for holidays and whatnot.
Festivals, yeah.
Yeah, 24 July, 28 August, 25 September, 23 October, 20 November, and 18 December. So the holidays are noted in yellow, and I believe we're avoiding those. I'm not sure about festivals. I don't know those dates. But looks, I'm not sure what the 19th of June is. Is that
Juneteenth. That's a
Juneteenth?
festival. That's bluegrass.
It's Juneteenth.
Yeah.
So that the 26th should be okay for that. 24th of July is before Jazz, which is usually the first weekend in August. And the 25th is after Blues and Brews. So anybody have any issues with this calendar? Is it
I do.
okay?
In February, I made plans based on us meeting the fourth Thursday, and suddenly we're meeting on the third Thursday, and I didn't know if there was a reason for that. I would like to meet on the February 27th rather than February 20th.
Ron, can you address that?
I think yeah, I don't really have an answer. I mean, we tried to model it after previous year, but we may have missed on that one. We have no problem changing that to 27th, I don't think, but.
Okay, thank you. Good catch. Are there any others like that? I noticed May we have 5 Thursdays.
Yeah.
And July as well. September is actually the 5th.
It's
actually
It's
dual,
the
right?
fourth. It got.
It's in conflict with a budget meeting, but that's not a problem. November, I assume, is the week before.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thanksgiving, which is the 27th next year. And the 18th of December is before Christmas. So that holiday anyway. All right. So the only change here is the 27th. I don't think we need a motion on that, just a direction to staff. Is that right?
That would be great. Thank you.
Good catch. Okay. Why don't we take a 5-minute break since we still have a little bit more time on that 15-minute.
Okay.
And Tina, that means we would meet again at 7:34, according to my watch.
Yes.
Okay. Looks like you're all receiving some information.
Yeah. And
You're not allowed to have it.
the getting emailed to, Angela.
Angela and Ron, I will email you a copy right now. It is just it is the resolution of denial, which I drafted pursuant to the comments received earlier.
Okay. And you have included all the citations that we have been talking about?
Yes, when I send it to you, you'll see the citations. I'll go ahead and read them off to you, though, Angela.
Okay.
They are Master Plan Goal A, Policy Actions 2, 4, and 6. Master Plan Goal H, Policy Actions 1 and 5. And Master Plan Goal I, Policy Actions 2 and 4. If there are additional items you would like to add here, we can definitely do that. However, this should be a good start for us just based on the consensus I heard earlier.
Okay, there was also a land use code reference, Division 2.
I thought I heard from the commission that that could be left off. However, if you would like me to add it, I can.
Okay, we can talk about that.
Ally, didn't you tell us we should leave that one off, or did you suggest that or not?
Well, I think if you would like me to weigh in on that specific concern from the land use code, I definitely can. But I am not the decision maker. It needs to be you. If more than just one of you agrees that that is a reason for denial, if the majority of you agrees that's a reason for denial, then it should be included on this resolution. If only one of you thinks it's a reason for denial, then it should not be on this resolution. So that's something that you need to discuss among yourselves.
What are your concerns with that particular citation?
So let me pull it up real quick.
At the beginning.
Way too many tabs open. So that was land use code 201 A1 and A4, correct?
Charles?
1201.
1201, A1 and A4.
I think A4 is the.
We just walk it over to her.
The stringent.
Now we're talking.
I'm
criteria.
get it up right now. I think we're gonna hit it at the same time.
Have you, Angela, looked at that?
Yes. I have not.
Okay.
So did we reopen the public hearing first?
We have not.
Okay, I would like to do so before we continue any further discussion.
Very good.
I move to reopen the public hearing.
Second.
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 Just to clarify, public, not public, not the.
Oh, reopen the item for deliberations. Yes, not the public
deliberation,
hearing,
not the
but
public
to
hearing.
reopen the item. Thank you, Mary Elizabeth.
Open it. Thank you.
Yes,
for
thank you, Mary
deliberation.
Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have a motion by Kathy. I didn't hear the second.
John.
John,
Yes.
as
He
an
can
alternate.
second even though he can't vote.
Okay,
That's close.
good. Good to know. Any discussion to reopen deliberation? Okay, Kathy,
Yes.
John.
Well, he doesn't vote. Go to
But
Charles.
you can make the motion.
Yes.
You can second the motion. All right, very good. Peter,
Yes.
Charles, and Todd.
Todd, yes.
Thank you.
And
And
Ann-
Angela, yes.
Okay.
Okay, now we have open deliberations. Where were we?
We were on the land use code section.
Yes, that citation.
I believe you were seeking legal advice from your attorney. First, I'd like to note for the record that I did send this draft motion to Angela, who is remote, and to Ron, who is also remote. That is the same version I drafted just before I handed it out to council. And now, or sorry, to the commission. And now we are about to discuss legal's interpretation of why 1-201A of the land use code, A1 and A4 might not be appropriate here for a denial. And the reason I say this is more of a legal interpretation is because this does require legal advice to the commission tonight. So A4 reads the provisions of this code in addition to all other town ordinances are in addition the laws of the state of Colorado, the laws of the United States, and applicable common law, And I believe the provision that Charles was most worried about was this code shall not supersede any private land use regulations in deeds or covenants which are more restrictive than this code. So I think your concern was that this setback could be a private covenant, which would then supersede the code. Was that the line of thinking you were going down?
Yes.
So this is legislative. So this setback, land use code setbacks are legislative. This is something that has been applied in addition to that legislative setback of the code. So this was applied through a subdivision process. However, that is not a private covenant. So this is something that has been applied through the quasi-judicial process by a prior planning commission to this property. So this setback in particular is not legislative. It has been applied quasi-judicially in the past, but it is not a private covenant. It is just a regulation imposed by a government. So I do not think that this 1-204A4 would be applicable for a denial. However, if you disagree, you are of course welcome to put that into a resolution.
I would just, my comment would be that if the subdivision was platted
Mhm.
and that plats can be considered a covenant.
So they
By-
can be, but they're also in a sense regulatory when it is a government that is imposing those conditions, and particularly with respect to, so just as the staff memo said that third parties don't have a right to those benefits that a subdivision might grant, the subdivision that gets recorded and approved is something, it's an agreement between the town and the party, that subdivision. And remember that the applicant doesn't have to record that subdivision if they don't agree with it. As we saw previously in this very process back in 1997, they can change it before they record it. And once it's been approved and changed, they then record it, and that becomes the plat. However, it's not a covenant. It is something that can be changed through the regulatory process, which is exactly what they're doing now.
That's why we have you.
Yep.
Okay?
So did you want to discuss A1 at all?
No.
Okay.
I'm fine.
So Charles, you're suggesting.
I'm fine leaving those out.
Okay, very good. That's what I was trying to get to. So, okay, I have a copy of the resolution as you've drafted it. Any discussions about?
I think I'm allergic to it.
You and me both, Todd.
Are these the correct citations from Peter? I think you had one, and Charles, you had another, and Kathy, did you have an addition?
I'm looking under number 2, Angela, and I think
Yes.
this goal H, Ally's prepared resolution here
Yes.
looks correct. And 1 and 5 were those that I cited, so I see those.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Charles, you cited goal 8, I believe.
That was actually part of the design guidelines.
Okay.
That's, I'm fine with these,
Kathy, you had
All
quite a
of-
few.
Yeah, I gave her a list, and everything that was a master plan one is in this list. So I'm happy.
Okay. So Peter, Charles, Kathy, you're okay with the resolution? Todd, anything to add here?
No.
Okay, so I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay,
Which is on page,
well,
would we need to reference these findings, correct? Where is my motion?
well, it's now the resolution, okay.
Yeah, P and Z proposed motion on page 8 of 8 of the memo. There is one for approval and one for denial.
Okay, I can read it. Okay, I move to approve the following resolution to deny the minor scale subdivision of lots 5R, 7, 8, and 9, Block 20, East Telluride addition to the town of Telluride, removing a designated 15-foot rear setback on the plat and optional rear access with the 15-foot rear setback pursuant to the Land Use Code, Section 6-402.c, based on the findings and facts and conditions set forth in the resolution of denial attached to the staff memo dated November 14th, 2024. This motion is based on evidence and testimony provided at a public hearing held on October 24th, 2024 and November 21st, 2024, with notice of such hearing provided as required by the Telluride Land Use Code.
So the staff memo dated November 14th, is that referencing our new resolution or? new
Yes, I was
findings?
going to wait on a second and then I was going to ask for
Very
someone
good.
to have a friendly amendment.
I will
Okay,
second.
okay, Charles,
Peter.
thank you. Or
Peter.
Peter, sorry. I knew that.
That's one clarification. Did the motion read that it's also to vacate and?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh,
I just wanted a clarification on the motion that's on the table. Does it read that it was also, it's to deny the minor subdivision to remove the 15-foot setback? Did your motion also say an access easement? Because that is not part of the application. The access easement is per that separate agreement.
Yeah, I wanted to make a friendly amendment too, but.
So I think first to answer Mary Elizabeth's question, the way the language reads, removing designated 15-foot rear setback on the plat and optional rear access within the 15-foot rear setback. So I don't, we're not parties to the easement, so I don't think it necessarily impacts that. It's a denial of removing the setback for whatever purpose.
Is that clear?
I understand now that's what's being, the motion that's on the table. Thanks.
Okay. And then the attached staff memo doesn't apply here. It would be findings that we have found today.
Yes, so I would, for whoever would like to make the friendly amendment, my suggestion would be attached to the staff memo dated November 14th, 2024, as amended at the hearing held on November 21st, 2024.
Okay. So can I just say, so,
So moved.
amended? So amended, what were your words?
Please.
what she said.
Do you capture that? Yes. Then yes, Kathy.
So amended?
I will second that.
Okay. So friendly amendment and the motion. Any discussion? Okay, Kathy? How do you
I
vote?
vote yes.
Peter?
Yes, Peter, yes.
Charles?
yes. Charles, yes.
And Todd?
Todd, no?
Angela, yes. So thank you very much, everyone, for your patience tonight and going through this process, and actually on the 24th as well. And I believe that brings us, since we have done board and staff discussion on the calendar, and we have also done the recommendation on our other item. Is there any other item for discussion tonight? Welcome, Kristen, to a process here. And Lee Shay, thank you for stepping up and coming back. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yes.
So motion to adjourn, or don't even need a motion. We're adjourned with unanimous consent, and that's it. Okay,
All right.
no objections? We're good. Thank you very much, everyone. And we are adjourning at 7:53 p.m.